everybody. Welcome back to the In Faith Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tony Manette, and this is one of the greatest guys in the entire world, Dan Kress.
Oh, yeah. Keeps evolving.
Keeps
evolving.
Yeah, I'll never run out. Never,
We
ever.
shall see.
Yes. So we just want to welcome you guys back to the In Faith Podcast. We've had, I think, a great time rebooting as we get the chance to kind of use these amazing resources that you've helped to support and supply here at the Bridge Church, which has been fantastic.
So fantastic.
Yeah, oh my gosh, freaking love this space and
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
This place, this space, this place, this face.
That's right.
Yeah. It's all of it.
So,
Fantastical creature.
oh my gosh. Yeah, so we've been covering as we've come back to the reboot, we've started to kind of address what we feel are some really important things going on out there in our society,
Yeah.
especially with our youth, or what I would call the future.
Yep.
Right. Some pretty dark, powerful stuff.
Yeah, I find myself doing this a lot.
Right.
Just talking through it.
Right. What is happening?
Yeah.
What do I have to do at home? Yes. And I know some of the stuff, I think our last episode that we aired, I thought you gave some really good examples of taking
you.
things like challenges at work and turning them into opportunities for people to grow.
And for yourself to grow.
Yep. And,
Yeah.
and even draw like a more powerful identity for your team.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of stuff. And really empower them to do some things and make some changes. Right. Super duper stuff. And you guys had some really big things going on here, right? I mean, you kind of changed out the entire system.
Yeah, not kind of, definitely.
Yeah.
Still
yeah.
working on it. We got some stuff still to flesh out.
Will
but
you
yeah.
ever be done? Like,
You know, that's the thing is I don't think it.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever done with that kind of stuff
No.
because once you get something, you know, we had some special communication go out recently. I had to record a video for it, and so our lead pastor was on stage and we were just recording this little video, and I was like, we were referencing with our side screens, and I said, yeah, it looks way better online than it does on the side screens, and he's like, didn't you budget for new projectors and stuff? And I was like, oh, I did, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
right.
And so when all the audio stuff's done, I'm moving on to some video stuff, and it's just all, and then we might be circling back around to audio again, you know, in a few years, you know, who knows? Yeah, but it's ever evolving.
Well, I mean, every organization, right? I mean, I don't know of an organization that says, yeah, we're good.
We just
Right, we're
that was
just
great.
perfect now. We're perfect, and we don't have to change anything ever, right? So, yeah, that's and some of that's related to challenge. But before we dive in, how was your week? How's everything going?
My week was good.
Yeah?
How's your week going?
Yeah, it was great. I had a birthday.
You
had
did have a
had
birthday.
And our nation had a birthday. That was a great part of my week.
Our
and,
nation did have a birthday. It was
Yep.
great. Yeah, we had a great 4th of July.
Did you?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I hear you did too. You had 37 and a half conies.
I did.
Cheese conies, if you're not in Cincinnati.
Right.
This is
Right.
fine
I saw.
representation.
Did you see? You know, they do the like up at the boardwalk in New Jersey. They do the big hot dog, the Nathan's hot dog thing.
They were doing it at Drake's. You know Drake's in Florence?
Oh, really? They had one in Drake's.
They had a hot dog eating. No. I lied. So I know somebody that works at Drake's, and I was half listening to them when they were talking to me yesterday. They didn't have a hot dog. No, it was Monday they were talking to me. They didn't have a hot dog eating contest. They were airing the hot dog eating contest that you're talking about.
At Drake's.
On
Gotcha.
every screen at Drake's.
Really?
And people are trying to eat their sushi.
Yeah.
Dip in the.
So it's like 74 or something like that.
Is that the backs? Is
Oh
that the-
my gosh.
It's like, and they're dipping the bread in the water. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I like.
What?
I like. There's like some tiny gal that competes with these guys, and it's funny. Like you would think these people would be just massive, right? And they're all these like tiny, diminutive, thin, healthy-looking, folks. That
You know
are
what's funny? I used to be into competitive eating. Like, not doing it, but, like, this is insane. Like, I used to love watching it. And there's these guys on YouTube that'll go and do these challenges, like 47 burritos.
Yeah.
And you get it for free. I'm like, I don't want free food that bad. But
Right.
a lot of these guys are pretty thin, and gals, and they say that the fatter you are, the less room your stomach can stretch
Really?
rapidly. Like you can if you eat 47 hot dogs or 74 hot dogs every day, then you'll be able to. But the kind of capacity they're talking about is like rapid stretching.
Yeah.
And if you got a lot of fat in there and stuff, your liver's all inflamed from being a fat person.
Yeah.
Doesn't do it.
There's no room
I
to
didn't
stretch.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, all these skinny people.
Yeah. So
The only reason I want to be skinny.
right. Right. So you can eat 47 burritos when you have to.
When I have to.
When it's really on the line.
When it's on the line.
Awesome.
Where were you going with that?
I don't know. We
You
were
saw
just
the hot dog eating contest?
I just thought it's a unique challenge.
It is. So speaking of challenge,
Speaking of challenges.
what was their vision behind those hot dogs? It is a unique challenge.
Right.
Sometimes these episodes are unique challenges.
Yes, they are.
Unique New York. So no, let's rein it back in. We had a great week. We celebrated our nation's birthday, which is not really its real birth. It's like Christmas. Like that's not really Jesus' real birthday.
Yeah.
Like say it's like sometime in like June. Like,
Right.
we should be celebrating Jesus' birthday on July 4th. Actually,
Right.
probably
Probably.
it's closer to the actual time it happened.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was good. We did something really strange. We've got 3 kids. We've talked about. We got one that's like a preteen and one that's she can barely go to the bathroom by herself. That's
Yeah.
all, And then my son, Bacon Boy, in the middle. And somehow we made it out to a friend's house for the first half of the day without any children. We're just hanging
Wow.
out. We show up and all of our
Wow.
friends with kids were like, "Where are your kids?" We're like, "We really don't know.
Yeah.
They're out.
We really don't know.
Not sure." And they're like, "Well,
That's
this
liberating.
They're like, "This sucks because we got our kids."
Yeah.
Like, my bad. So, how's that margarita machine
Yeah.
going?
Sucks for you.
Sucks for you. We picked them up later and went to the second party. It was good, but we had a good time. Just poolside, celebrating our freedoms.
Yes, it was good.
Yeah.
We are very blessed.
I was
aren't we?
blessed and free
Yes.
to eat half of a grandma's pizza
Right,
yesterday.
Right. Yes.
So that's how my week's going.
I love it. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I had a great birthday, 56 now, so God has blessed me with another year. Right, easy, don't choke. Yep, keep the defibrillator charged.
For you and me both.
And so, yeah, it was
But
great.
you're 56. Raise your hand if you're on this stage and you've ever had a heart attack.
Yeah,
It's more than a number.
right. So speaking of challenges, so I had a great birthday, and I love I'm one of those people who likes to celebrate and love birthdays, and
Yeah.
they're not a secret for me. I'm proud of the fact that made it to another one. So
And it don't have to
good
be
stuff.
your birthday.
Right.
I've seen you celebrate
Oh
pretty
my
hard
gosh,
on
I love
someone else's birthday.
I just love celebrating.
I just love celebrating. I love being a
Probably
squirrel.
something I need to work on. Honestly,
Yeah. I have a problem. I just
I just love to celebrate.
well, in fact, my biggest weaknesses are actually my biggest strengths.
That's right.
Care too much. Work too hard. Really love
Oh
celebrating.
my gosh, you should interview for jobs professionally.
Yeah, I should. And then when they offer it to me, nah,
Nope.
no.
Just looking for your feedback.
Yeah. Until they go.
Honing my craft.
Yeah, until they go. All right, you've been accepted. We would love to offer you this position as the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest judge.
I'm in.
Son of a gun!
Finally.
I didn't even know what this job was for.
Right. What? That's this job.
Mom, I made it to the big show.
I thought this was the manager for Orange Julius job.
Dude, my buddy saw Wendy Peppercorn, or not Wendy Peppercorn. Who was the girl in Wonder Years?
Oh, yeah, I don't.
He saw her coming out of an Orange Julius one time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously not in Cincinnati.
Right.
but
No. Gosh, I remember when that was a thing? Huh.
Orange Julius?
Yeah. Before
Yeah.
Smoothie King.
That's an old
There was
sentence.
Orange Julius.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
left Blockbuster.
Right.
And we're
Yeah.
going to go down to Orange Julius before we head home and eat our Raisinets and watch.
Right. Which was
Friday
it,
the
it was
13th.
just like orange juice and sugar, and then they froth it and they hand it to you
Yeah.
for like $8.
Isn't
It
the
was
Lord
like
good?
$7.
Yeah, isn't
or
the Lord
something.
good?
It's, yeah, well, it's good. Yep. Oh. But anyway, so let's get
All
back
right,
on
we've-
track
we
here.
have-
So,
How much time y'all
oh
got?
my gosh, yeah, right. Get comfortable. You might want to go get a
Might want to
refreshment.
get an orange Julius and 74 hot dogs. 'Cause
But so anyway, so what we had been connecting on, or the through line that we've been just kind of working through, is the fact that if you know the InFace podcast, we really feel like there's a group of folks out there that could just use a friendly voice.
Yeah.
People that sound and feel like they're from their neighborhood, or possibly are, right? And to let them know, number one, that they're not alone, and the fact that maybe their life is not in phase, or they don't feel like they're thriving, right, currently, that there are things to do, right, to kind of get you out of that mode, that the universe maybe isn't just going to deliver that to you, right?
Right.
Or just, right, and yes, right, yep. No genie's going to show up there out of the bottle. And then some practical things to continue to just kind of discuss and work on, and hopefully with the idea being that we'll get some dialogue up and running, right. Out there in our community, right, and around things that we can start to do. Earlier, we talked about the fact that social media is having a huge negative impact on the demographic of, I think it was 13 to 14-year-olds to 20 up to 26-year-olds.
Yeah.
The fact that societally there's a major problem that I don't feel like we're really discussing enough, and that is the fact that suicide has become such a big deal in that age group.
Yeah.
Right? That 1 in 10 kids in the next 12 months are going to try. I say kids, so 1 in 10 in that demographic, 14 to 26, are going to try to take their own life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
Kids.
what's trending. Yeah, kids, right? So, and so
That's insane to me.
yeah. So, and we'd love to try to connect with those folks around just some things that here's the thing that I've been discussing with my family is the fact, and I don't know if this is the right description, but we've kind of been duped, right? And I don't know that that is the purpose or the design, but the stuff that's been going on with social media and tools like this, and the ability now to with generative AI and all the other stuff that's starting to add into it, everything's filtered, right? Nothing's really real, right? A lot of it is tied to agenda. Most of it now, this was supposed to be an escape. Now it's turned into kind of a trap, and it's mostly negative. It leaves a negative impact that actually makes you feel worse, not better.
It feels like for me, excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze.
On 3. 1, 2, sneeze.
I think it passed.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
Sometimes for me, it feels like coming back to real life is an escape from the trap of, and I'm in tech, so a lot of my job and the things people use to escape with their phones and computers and tablets and whatnot, they're just so intertwined.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I just end up feeling like mowing my grass is an escape.
That's true. That's true. There is something, honestly, to be said, and we could probably turn that into an episode itself around activity, right? And especially activities that are repetitious, almost. There's almost like a mantra type, right, where you almost have the ability to kind of it's almost like a yoga effect. Right, that kind of thing, where it's almost meditative in certain regards, and you get the chance to kind of think about other stuff, and then escape, and maybe purely be in the moment for a little while, and then think about some other things that you've shelved for a while. You know what I mean? So we could probably talk about that, right, and put that on our list forever. So, but some of the stuff that we talked about directly related to the episode where you gave a great example of some challenges that you guys overcame, how you built into the team, stuff that takeaways, how, you were different after.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe bigger, better, and more, right, than you were before, and especially with the team dynamic.
Right.
Right. At work. Right. And that can translate into stuff with family as well. Right? And so the question that popped out of that was, well, why do we have these challenges? Like, if there was design or purpose behind these challenges, right, why would that be? Right. And we've talked a little bit about I know you gave some great examples, right? That you empowered folks, right? And there was all of a sudden you had the ability to communicate at a higher level, right?
Yeah.
You could hand things off and they could come back to you, right? And everybody rose kind of to this new bar, right? Collectively, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so purpose, though, is a big word that a lot of people are beating the crud out of
Yeah.
out there.
And without really knowing what it means really or how to define it, like purpose just ends up being my truth,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or that word is used, I think, to validate something.
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Like, it's my purpose. It's, yeah, but
Right.
is it really? So I know we're going to talk what we've talked, just kind of prepping, because we do, contrary to popular belief, we do prepare for episodes.
Yes. Yes. We do.
So we've been
contrary to popular belief.
So we've been talking about purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems to be a kind of turned into a buzzword,
Like trigger.
maybe not a trigger, more of an Instagram
No,
filter.
the word trigger. Like
Oh.
the word trigger is so
Yeah.
overused,
Yeah.
it's like triggering now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an Instagram filter, the word purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Yep.
Like a social filter.
Yeah, and so when I know you and I, we have a certain set of beliefs that we have found to be a very very powerful difference in our lives, right?
Yeah.
A big game changer for us around our beliefs and our belief in Jesus and all the benefits that come with that. But if we were to just open ourselves up to kind of the general discussion around purpose, I know. We definitely want to connect on the purpose behind challenges, but I think first, let's connect a little bit on kind of how it is that folks are defining purpose, right?
Yeah.
And so, for you, I just a couple of questions because I think it, like, especially as it relates to you raising kids and some of the other things that you've talked about previously. When you kind of identify your purpose, is there a way to summarize that in your mind?
Yeah, I think. Well, it's in stages, right? I think that changes.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And that's one thing I've learned from you is now is not forever, and your purpose, your direction, your impact, the intent behind things, your why for a job or whatever, all that changes with seasons. So I'll say that, like, my purpose definitely has changed over the years, but I think the most solid and never changing purpose that I've had for the last almost 13 years is that of fatherhood, of parenthood, raising God-fearing children that are productive in their society, productive in their faith. That's my purpose. I mean, if at the end of the day, it doesn't matter no matter how many hot dogs I eat,
Right.
how many contests I win, or how much I innovate on a tech team, or how many songs I write and record, or how many tours I go on, or how many career paths I change. Like, at the end of the day, for me, my purpose is shepherding those kids the best that I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think speaking a little bit to the fact that your purpose is tied to your identity,
Yeah.
right? That's definitely something that we've covered quite a bit around identity, and the fact that purpose being tied to identity is not necessarily kind of what's being discussed out there in mainstream media, right? It's more around the things like what do you find meaningful, like in and of its own, right? What are you passionate about, right? In and of its own, and instead, and we kind of stop there,
Right.
right? But there should be aspects where you're also connecting to um, um, what are your values,
Yeah, and you talked about what am I? I'm passionate about this thing, right? Talk about being passionate, and then your identity. Sometimes your passions don't align with your identity.
right?
My identity is a father and a husband, and those kids won't eat unless I go to work.
Yeah,
My passion's not always going to work and hitting the nail on the head.
yep,
And sometimes people's passion, it selfishly gets in the way, because there's an aspect of contentment, like forcing contentment. This is how it is right now, and that's why I like how you and I have always talked about seasons. It's seasonal and things like that. Like sometimes your passions kind of get benched
yep,
for your purpose.
yeah, yep,
Your purpose and your identity always they kind of supersede passions
yeah,
when stuff is on the line.
Right.
Literally, kids' lives are on the line, or something bigger than you. Its success is on the line because
Yeah.
of you, and that kind of thing.
And I would also say, and tell me what you think about this, that if you're trying to connect with passion, what you're passionate about, as one of your primary filters, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, right?
Right, yeah.
As long as it aligns with some things that also are healthy for you and the people around you, right? There's nothing wrong with kind of trying to stay in contact with your passion around what it is that you. But sometimes you have to sacrifice your passion immediately to stay right, on point, right, to your purpose, right, which is
Yeah.
also kind of aligned to a vision.
Right. That's
Right.
where we get those stories where you're just doom scrolling on TikTok and Instagram
Yep.
or whatever, and you see like video of that son or daughter that they maybe their parents are in their 50s or 60s and did everything they could to take care of them,
Yeah.
and then the kids buy them a new house or buy them the car they always wanted, or
Right.
you know what I mean. That kind of stuff is a product, and you just see the joy on their parents' face, because it's not about getting the thing that they've always wanted. It's about that's the fruit of them. That is the fruit of them hitting the nail on the head and having a purpose. My purpose is to raise this child well, raise this
Yeah.
kid well, or keep this family focused on, whatever the faith or a greater purpose as a family or whatever. That's the fruit, is like kids recognizing their parents' passion and making that their passion, and that kind of stuff. I swear, when I see stuff like that, it's like I have a uterus. You know what I mean? That, or like when soldiers come home
Yeah.
and their dog recognizes them.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why.
Oh, I love
Why
it.
does that make me all verklempt?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I
But
love
you know
it.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's the classic, oh my gosh, I bought my dad this 65 whatever he's always wanted,
Yeah.
And then that is just that purpose focused life exemplified, because
Right.
then the kid sees, oh, my parents sacrificed everything for me or whatever. They kept us focused, and I want to bless them. I know they have this passion they put on the side for me.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not the reason to raise your kids well. That's just a niche example. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, it's a great example of that.
Right.
And not a bad example of that is I'm passionate about using meth.
You're right.
You know? And
yeah.
my kids are whatever, taken from me, or something horrible happened, and I'm, and so it's like both ends of the spectrum there, and it's that, somebody's purpose and identity could have been whatever, but they just chose to follow a passion that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just, do you think that there are passions that you, inside of, like for me as a dad, do you think, or maybe you had one when you had young kids, were there passions with you and Becky that, oh, I'm falling over. Were there passions that aligned with that purpose of raising those kids well? Like things that you found later, you're like, I would never have thought this is a passion of mine, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it was it was seasonal. It was very seasonal to that point, right? And it rapidly evolved and changed, especially as our kids grew older and kind of the environment changed based upon their age and what they were doing and what we were all trying to learn together.
Yeah.
I mean, different sports or social activities or whatever it was, or competitions, but.
Hot dog eating competitions.
Yeah, right. But it was it was funny because I also found that I think there's a really cool factor in the fact that that the things that we were passionate about sometimes were in conflict with each other, with Becky and I, and a lot of times were additive, like they helped our family dynamic around the things like, oh, I'm passionate about that, I've got that covered. Right, yeah. She's passionate about this. She's got that covered. Right, so that was kind of neat. I think it's a great question. One of the things, though, that I think is also a little concerning is the discussion around passion as it relates to identity. And as it relates to purpose, right, it becomes like the primary filter is kind of what we're almost saying, and we're kind of saying no, it's part of the formula,
but it's not. Yeah, it definitely doesn't boil up to the top.
No,
it can't.
Right,
it can't.
It can't. Right.
Well, because in a family, in any scenario, because when you're dealing with a purpose, and this whole podcast is about how we can be in phase, not with ourselves, but just ourselves, but with everyone around us. We're all on this, this,
all in the same raft.
Same raft, right? And identity, I think purpose for sure, and identity more so than passion are more communal. Mm-hmm. Passion tends to be pretty isolated or it's selfish, but selfish. It's self-focused. Like you just said it a second ago, like my passions and Becky's passions sometimes were in conflict with each other, but other times they were additive. Like you're recognizing we both have the same purpose as parents.
Yep.
Very similar identity as parents.
Yep.
But we have individual passions, you know, and
yep.
That's why I can't boil up to the top,
right.
Because like we said a couple episodes ago, maybe, or last episode, it's like my truth and your truth. It could also be my passion and your passion. Everybody gets what they want. They get to do what they want until those things are in conflict with each other. And we are a society without vision. Without vision, we perish. Right.
Right. And that's a great point. Really, on this discussion is vision. Right. Vision, mission. A lot of those are used kind of interchangeably, right? And it's interesting because so to kind of check one box for the folks that are out there listening, if you were trying to, like, if you're sitting down and saying, hey, wait a minute, what is like, I know what my passions are because I'm acting on them pretty regularly, right? But really, what is my purpose, right? I think there's some really interesting dynamics out there. Lately, some of the research that I did. So when I was your age, right, and you were going through things like the blueprint for your life, right? When you were blueprinting, that was a big thing back then.
Yeah.
You would literally kind of draw out a plan, right? And you would sit down and so one of the top points is the fact that you've actually got to sit and think about this stuff. Right, you've got to ruminate and sit and think, and spend some of your time without this, right? But I mean, ideas don't come from you doing other stuff.
Right. It's idle
Right,
time.
right.
Yeah.
It's literally like big powerful ideas come from you sitting there and investing time in that.
Yeah.
Right. And so the same thing around purpose, right, is you're going to have to spend some time on this, number one. Number two, there maybe some of the practices that I grew up with aren't the best practices now for you and folks younger than you, right?
Yeah. I mean, truth is truth.
Yep, that's true.
But yeah, I get what you're saying with that. You know, I would argue that things that stick, you know, if it's sticking, then it's always going to stick.
Yeah. Yep. Um, so then specifically to try and help someone kind of recalibrate or open themselves up to thinking about their purpose, right? I know for you and I, it's very identity driven, right? And our identity is around something that we feel is much larger than ourselves, being our creator.
Yeah.
And not that excludes anyone. It's just that, unfortunately, your job's going to be a lot harder when it comes to purpose, right? Especially if you're all on your own.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, trying to drive to purpose, because it has to come down to identity. And then there's some basics around it, right? It has to be something that usually you have the abilities to master. Right, so you kind of have to become good at your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Which usually means that your talents or your innate or natural abilities align with that as well.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny because oftentimes purpose, there are events of success that lead to purpose. Not always. There's lots of failure
Right.
around purpose, but there are moments of success that hinge in this chain of keep continuing to draw us or grow us in our purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's really, really important. And then it has to align with something that's value based. Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we see it all the time now, right? The fact that you were alluding to it earlier. This is how I feel now.
Right.
Right, and purpose is much bigger.
Purpose is bigger than how you feel. It's yeah. You have to have some sort of. You have to have some sort of moral structure, because you know feelings are not going to uphold. You know, purpose is longevity. You know what I mean? And feelings aren't going to feel that.
Right.
Feelings aren't going to feel that tank very long.
No, and purpose isn't always going to bring you happiness.
No, it's not.
Which is a feeling.
Right.
It's not always going to be exciting, which is a feeling, right? It's not always going to be, you're not always going to be getting, positive feedback
Right.
on what you're doing against your purpose and how you're executing, right? It's challenging, right?
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like we like to watch people that have purpose. We like to watch people watch movies or shows and about people that have purpose against all odds, and they keep pushing through, and they have this talent or whatever, and they use that, they push through the odds and use that talent. Like, that makes good Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yep.
or like The Bear. There's a show out called The Bear about a cook, and I'm not saying go watch The Bear because it's rife with things that
Adult content?
adult content.
Gotcha.
I haven't even watched The Bear. I just, I just know it's a show about a chef who's struggling with a restaurant, and people are loving the show, or like, I don't know. Just there's too many to pull from for me to just name any.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was the first one that came to mind, but we enjoy consuming that stuff.
Yeah.
We enjoy consuming that stuff, and it makes us feel. It makes us feel a certain way. It gives us a passion that we can do those kind of things.
Yeah.
But we're not doing those kind of things. Like we watch documentaries about people climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And we get all jazzed about it, and they're climbing up there, and there's frozen bodies. And
Yeah.
they're like, and that kind of like, you're like, and that excitement and that feeling like they did it, and there's a frozen body, and that person didn't do it. motorcycle documentaries, or they're traveling across the world, or whatever, or all these different things. We love to consume people that are on purpose.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yep.
But we are not willing to be self-aware enough to say, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm being a wimp.
Well, and you're connecting on something there as well. And I think it's a great reminder of some of the folks. So in our kind of the initial launch of the podcast, we were interviewing some folks in our community.
Incredible stories.
Right. And I think one of the things to be learned there, so number one, to your point, we are attracted to people that are really connected and on point with their purpose.
Right.
Like there is a natural attraction to wanting to be around them, and they just have a gravitas or you know a power, right, in their
Right.
life.
They use the word gravitas.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You just pulled that one out. I was like, I want to be near you.
Right, right. I learned that from somebody who is really living out their purpose. But
Yeah.
So we had a number of fantastic folks that we interviewed, and most of those interviews turned into 3 hours of awesomeness, where
Right.
they had lived through some challenges, they had come out of some things, and you could just they spoke a lot about how they were living what I would call in phase and on purpose, right? They had they had an identity that was connected to their purpose, and their purpose was connected to their identity, and they were moving,
Yeah.
right, in their community and in their world around.
And those people, and I see some of those people all the time. I see Beth all the time. And I've bumped into Darren since, and I can't remember,
Yep.
but
Chris. Yep.
yeah, obviously Chris Quartz. But those people aren't really bothered by some of the small stuff either.
Yeah.
They've got incredible stories of overcoming some tough stuff, and have a purpose to keep moving forward. And some of the stuff that they just encounter on a daily basis, like I saw Beth the other day at a show, and I'm like, I had a second where I thought, I can't believe that woman's still alive.
Yeah.
And she's living life. Yeah.
Boogieing down and
Yeah.
smiling.
She lives life like it could be the last day.
Yeah.
She's like, tomorrow, I could go back in the hospital tomorrow.
Yep.
I don't know. I've got these transplants I have a shelf life.
Right.
And
And I'm way beyond them.
and I'm way beyond them. Why waste it?
Yeah, right. Right.
And
yep. Very cool. Very cool.
yeah, so people that we've seen firsthand with that purpose,
Yeah.
they don't sweat all the small stuff. I bet you I could ask Beth Otto about politics, and she'd be like, I don't care.
Yeah, right.
You know-
She might roll her eyes a little bit, but
Yeah, she definitely has an opinion,
yeah.
but she's not going to let that stop her from engaging with somebody.
And to that point, they're not perfect. It's not like they're. I mean, they
No.
still get mad. You know,
Oh, yeah.
their poop still stinks. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what I mean.
That kind of stuff.
She's got someone else's
You're right.
kidneys and
Right,
stuff. I don't
maybe
know what.
not, I don't
maybe
know.
hers smells like flowers.
Right. Oh, but so just a couple of things to think about though around purpose, right? And then we'll close out stuff that you can kind of take away. Maybe if there was a call to action or a challenge for the listeners, try to spend 30 minutes this week or in
Yeah.
the next couple of weeks just sitting down and reconnecting with what is my purpose? How does it connect with my identity? Right? How am I making change and driving improvement in the world around me? Right? What
Yeah.
is my vision?
I've got some great bullet points, and you can even just check them off. It's like you could do a quiz.
Yeah.
I would say the first question I would ask is there anybody in my sphere of influence that is counting on me?
Oh, yep. Okay, great.
And what are they counting on me for?
Yep. Love that. That's great.
Because that'll quickly define your purpose.
Yep.
And passion, passion is definitely involved with your purpose. I would take that question of, is there anyone in my immediate sphere of influence right now who relies on me? How often do they rely on me, and for what? You know,
Yeah.
what's the cost there?
Yep.
And then what's my passion?
Yep.
And then what am I passionate about? And that's another question, right? Define your passion. That's like, what am I innately gifted to do? or whatever.
Yep.
Like I'm a musician. And then how do those things, can those intersect at all?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, guess what? The people that are counting on you, they actually take precedent.
It should.
Right? Yeah.
It really
so
should.
start with those two
Right.
questions. Who's relying on me and how much? My passions. What are my passions? Can those intersect? And if you're lucky enough to have those two things intersect, find the middle.
my gosh, yeah.
That's your purpose.
Yeah.
That's your purpose.
Yeah.
And if not, if those things don't intersect at all, the people that are counting on you, and if it's healthy, like your children, or if you run a company and the company's counting on you, you know what I mean? Those kind of things. That will have to be your purpose until your purpose and your passion can align.
Yeah.
Or even just touch.
Yep.
And because passion's great too. Like if it's a good, T.D. Jakes says, if you don't know your purpose, figure out what your passion is, and you'll find your purpose.
Yeah.
Which I agree with a little bit, but kind of contradicts.
Well, it's not the only thing.
Right.
It's not. I mean, it's a big part of it.
Right.
Right. But it's not the only thing. And part of what I think what we're seeing out there is that there's been this switch to, it's all about what I'm passionate about. And passion somehow is linked to emotion. And now we're allowed to turn our we're allowed to allow our emotions to control us because it's part of my passion. It's this big tricky Mobius that never stops, right?
Yeah.
But what it doesn't bring is joy. It doesn't really fulfill purpose,
Yeah.
right? So I love those examples.
So that's two questions we can ask.
Yep.
What do you think from there?
A couple of others. If you could sit down and really, I think, be brutally honest about what are the moments that matter to you, I think that might be a nice layer to answer those questions, to start to understand the reality around what you're identifying with and maybe how that could connect to a purpose.
Oh, so we almost have a trifecta. We have purpose, passion, identity.
Yeah.
So purpose is who's relying on me.
Yep.
Well, purpose is all of it,
Yep.
but who's relying on me
Right.
and for what? Passion, what am I good at? What do I like to do or whatever? Identity, what's important to me? What
Right.
moments in my life are important to me?
And what's meaningful.
And what's meaningful?
Yeah.
And maybe where all those three
Yep.
converge, oh man, that's my, in the church world, we'd say that's my calling.
Right. Right.
How does that, and that kind of calling drives us. But,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
keep going.
Well, no, and so exactly that, and then you're gonna have to spend some time on why. You're gonna have to connect with yourself
Yeah.
on how does that all come together, and why would that be your purpose?
Why would I do it?
Why?
Yeah, and sometimes the why is sometimes the why ends up being just because these kids are going to starve if I don't do this.
Right. And why are you passionate about what you're passionate about? Is it because it aligns with your talents? Is it because it's effortless? And why is your identity what it is? What are you connecting with that identifies you? What is your identity and why?
Yeah.
Right. And when you ask those why questions around that,
Why?
then you get a much better
Yeah.
understanding maybe around what your purpose could look like.
Yeah. I
Right?
like that.
And don't forget, it changes, right? It evolves.
Yes,
it
it
usually
does
becomes
evolve.
more, and maybe a little different as you go,
Yeah.
right?
Because if you're like me and my wife, you end up having more mouths that rely on you.
Yeah, right.
You
For
know?
sure, more.
The older we get, the more kids we
Right.
get. I don't understand how that works.
Well, and so speaking of your wife, fantastic, one of the smartest people I've ever met. She's going through her PhD, right?
Yep, she's getting a PhD in palliative care.
Yep. And that's going, obviously, she's learning more. She's becoming more of a master in that very specific field.
Yeah.
Right. And there's ultimately going to be more responsibility.
More and or different. And I would argue that, because we've put a ton of investment into this for her, like relationally and financially, me and the kids and her.
Yep.
And when, God willing, and she's so smart. I don't doubt for a second that she's going to finish her dissertation and she's going to have a PhD to show for it, right?
Yeah.
When that happens, it's not just her purpose that's going to shift. Our whole family's purpose is going to shift.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's cool too. That's kind of
It's
cool.
it's got
yeah,
to, right?
Yeah, right. That's neat.
So-
And you know, especially now that she's kind of starting to, when she's coming through that into what's next,
Yeah.
right? You'll all of the kind of the linked and associative things that are going on, like what she's responsible for, right? Different levels of accountability, her role, how she has to communicate, like all that stuff, right? It all is connected,
Yeah.
right? And it's all feeding from her identity and her passion and how that drives purpose,
Right.
right? So you know, what you can expect is that if you really get a clear understanding of kind of purpose around how that builds, it should start to drive and change and hopefully improve things
Right.
that you might be struggling with,
Yeah.
right? One of the things that I know that you can't do is you can't isolate.
No, you can't.
Right? If there is something around, if there's something relational, right, in driving kind of purpose, right?
Yeah, totally. And there's this strange phenomenon that happens when people have a defined purpose. When someone when people have a defined purpose, everyone knows what it is, and you start getting phone calls about that thing.
Yeah.
Like me, I got a call the other day. Somebody was like, "Hey, I think I've gotten this reputation of just being able to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like a handy guy."
Jack of all trades.
Yeah. My dad is a contractor. My dad's super talented, super handy of a guy. I think I picked that up from my uncles. Super handy because they just had to do everything. They just had to, I want something, I'm going to make it, right?
Yeah. They could build an airplane out of a lawnmower. right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And there is a guy that ate an airplane. It took him like 30 years to eat a whole
Oh
airplane.
my gosh, why would you eat an airplane?
I know. Piece by piece, he ground it up, and I guess he drank it, put it in water. Riveting stuff.
Oh, jeezel.
But anywho,
Oh God.
you get a reputation of being something like.
Walked right into it.
Yeah, you did. Of being something, and people just like the other day, I got a call like, "Hey, you know anybody who's got a fifth wheel trailer or fifth wheel? My truck broke down and our trailer's stuck, and I figured you kind of guy that knows somebody with a fifth wheel." And I was like, "Well, I mean, that's on brand, I guess." Or like when people
On
are
brand.
yeah,
Yeah.
when people are at the end of their life, or have a family member who is at the end of their life, the first person they call is me and my wife.
Yeah.
They'll call me and be like, "I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what we're going to do, whatever." And would Allison be willing? Yes, she'll be willing to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because that's her purpose, what she specializes in.
Yeah.
It's cool to see like my daughter, my oldest daughter right now, she's starting to get phone calls or messages from her friends asking about like softball stuff, you know,
Yeah.
because she's slowly becoming an expert at her age, for her age range. She has a certain acuity for that sport.
Yeah.
But I say that to say, the more you walk in a purpose, so you have to define a purpose, and then you walk in it. The more you walk in it, the more it kind of radiates, you know.
Yeah.
And you won't realize right away how impactful it's going to be to somebody else. But we joke like we've always got a guy.
Yeah.
We always got a guy for something. And that's because we walk with a lot of people, or we know a lot of people who are walking in their purpose, because you surround what you surround yourself in, like what you're stepping in is what you're going to smell like, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so we hang out with people that have purpose.
Yeah. Yep.
And
great way to put it.
and we if I need a rubber band guy, I'm sure I can find a rubber band guy.
Right.
If I need a guy that knows a lot about catalytic converters, you know what I mean?
Right. Yep. It's probably that guy that stole all four of mine.
All of yours, yeah. But does that make sense?
It does. I love how you put that. Yep. That's fantastic. Yep.
And
it.
in finding purpose, Dalai Lama says that everyone's purpose is to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do that, then just make your purpose not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's also that kind of aligns with our faith too.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
that's why it's so, I like
The golden rule.
Yeah. I like what you said earlier when you were like, it's going to be a lot harder if you don't have faith.
Yep.
If you don't have a compass like that.
You're not part of something bigger than yourself, and you're identifying with something much bigger than yourself, and that's not part of your identity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there have been seasons where I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, or friends of mine, or whatever, we just kind of default to love God, love others,
Yeah.
and in that moment, it's like I'm working at Gold's Gym making minimum wage,
Yep.
or whatever, and I don't know what I'm going to do, or I actually made hot dogs for a living.
Yeah.
Did not know where I was going or what I was doing, but I just had this mantra: love God, love others. And I knew I had to make money so I could feed myself, and
So work hard.
work hard. But that wasn't my purpose.
No.
But my purpose in that moment, in that season, was love God, love others. I don't know if you don't have a compass like that. I don't know. It's going to be a lot harder,
it's a
like
lot
you said.
harder.
But
Well, and so I think that kind of brings us to a great kind of wrapping point, because as we continue to connect on purpose, and we're going to post this on YouTube. We've also got a site, the Enphase Media Podcast, if you want to check us out. And we're going to have a link that's coming up in the next week or two where there'll be a blog that we can kind of start to communicate with anybody who's following us and they've got questions or they want resources, whatever.
full disclosure, it will be Dolores talking to everyone.
Dolores, thank
It's
you.
not us.
Oh my gosh,
she's
so
gonna
smart.
she's gonna write as us, but it'll be
Right,
Dolores.
Right. So, and thank you, Dolores, right?
Yeah.
And your entire family.
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things I wanted to kind of segue into is that our next episode, a big part of having identity and drawing that into purpose and really living a robust in-phase life is listening. The ability. What was it? Yeah, the ability to listen, right? Which I
Ooh.
feel we are losing rapidly,
Yeah.
right? When everybody's shouting and nobody's listening, like, how do you really learn? How do you really make change, right?
Yeah. You don't.
No, right. So hey, also we want to thank the Bridge Church,
Yeah.
right? For again, we mentioned earlier, they're sharing these amazing facilities with us, but nothing that we're discussing in any way, shape, or form is the views of the Bridge Church, right? They may align or not, and we're just thankful for them sharing all this amazing space
Yeah.
with us. Anything you want to say before we close out?
No.
The only thing I'm going to say is take some time, invest. This is your life.
Yeah.
Invest in trying to figure out what the purpose is. And if you're not doing that, and maybe turn this stupid thing off for a little while,
That's tough.
and just sit
Yeah.
and think about it, right?
Right.
You'd be surprised maybe what comes up.
Yeah.
Cool?
Great.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to screw it up.
No, you're not. You're not going to screw it up. You got this.
On behalf of the Enphase Podcast, hey, I did it. Oh my gosh. I'm Tony Maniette. And this is
And he is Tony Maniette.
Dan Kress. And thank you guys very much. We'll see you soon. I didn't screw it up. Enphase.
Enphase.